Tuesday morning at WNBF, 1290 AM and 92.1 FM. Now we're joined by Leslie Danks Burke, a candidate for State Senate, a Democrat. She joins us now from Ithaca. Good morning.
Good morning, Bob.
And thank you for being with us. We should say right at the outset, everybody, candidates, prospective voters, the media, everybody is still up in the dark as far as how the district lines are going to be set up for the 2022 election. So, as they say, that makes this all the more interesting.
Interesting is one word for it, Bob. It sure is something to be a candidate running for office and you don't know where you're running. But the even bigger problem to me is that voters don't know who their representatives are. And that's disenfranchising to voters, and it breaks our democracy, I think.
Well, maybe someday this will be fixed, but I'm not so sure it's going to be fixed in our lifetime. It just seems, to go through this type of process and make it so difficult, as you say, for voters, for New Yorkers to really know where their districts, where the boundaries will be, not just for the state legislature, but even for Congress. It's unfortunate, but we'll have to work with what we have right now. For our listeners here in Binghamton, take a moment to introduce yourself, a little bit of your background. It's actually, I think, a fascinating background, the fact that you grew up on the other side of the country. You grew up in Colorado, and I found your story of your early life fascinating before you even arrived here in upstate New York.
Well, thank you, Bob. I appreciate that. I did. I've lived here in upstate New York for almost 20 years, but I did grow up in Colorado. I was born and raised there, and then went to college at my state university in Colorado, and then started moving east and went to Chicago for a while, and then ended up in New York. Met a man, fell in love, got married, and had 2 kids here. But I did grow up in Colorado, and one of the things that really drives my life view is how I've seen huge corporations take over industry and farming in Colorado. And one of the real beauties of upstate New York is that we do have local agriculture. We have family farms, and I do not want to see those family farms driven out of business. We're starting to see that happen across upstate New York. We're starting to see our dairy industry get decimated. And to me, with my parents are farmers in Colorado. They've been farming for 25 years. And it is very hard these days to stand up to the corporate agriculture that is taking over our country. And I don't think we need that here in upstate New York.
Tell our listeners how it came to pass that you got interested in politics. You focused on becoming an attorney, but then you decided you wanted to get involved in government and deal with or address some of the issues and concerns that you think are important. What prompted you to take an active interest in the political process here in New York?
I think it kind of went the other way around. I think I always came from a family that was engaged and participatory, and then I just added on becoming an attorney to that. I remember being a kid, my dad was active with the Democratic Committee, and even before I could read, my job was to sit in my little red wagon as he rolled me up and down the streets. I was supposed to sort campaign literature and make sure that I had all the flyers facing the right way before he got up to the next door so that he could hang campaign literature for the candidates that he supported on the doors. And so I came from a family that was always very involved and active. My mom was active with the League of Women Voters. She was a teachers union member. She was a middle school teacher. And then I did go to law school and moved to New York City after law school and practiced law there for a little bit. Realized pretty quick that I would much rather be in a place that isn't a big, huge city, and moved to upstate New York with my husband. And I did look around and realize that there's a lot of challenges we're facing here because the southern tier is beautiful. We have great industry here. We have great agriculture. We've got really vibrant people. We've got arts. But we just haven't gotten our fair share from the state. We get left behind. I think we've learned to settle for less. And to me, we can stand up and demand our seat at the table and demand our fair share. And I'd really like to see that happen. And so I've made that my life's work over the last 15 years to be as engaged as possible in sort of a 14-county area that I've done a lot of economic development work and a lot of work supporting local businesses and local agriculture, because I believe we deserve better, and I think we can get it.
Speaking with Leslie Danks Burke, who is joining us this morning from Ithaca, what's your take on the way things are running in New York State government? We have now a Democratic governor, which we've had for a long time, and now both houses of the legislature are controlled by Democrats. But even when the Republicans had the majority in the state Senate, it seemed very often that the Republican majority would still go along with the Democratic governor. They might have arguments or different positions on some key issues, but over the course of time, especially on some spending issues, it seemed that regardless of who was in charge in the Senate, for example, that those in charge in Albany seemed to pretty much conduct themselves the same way. It seems to me, even going as far back as when the last Republican governor was in office, George Pataki, a lot of the same things appeared to happen in Albany. What is your take?
Well, you described that really well, Bob. The problem in Albany is not a Democrat-Republican problem. The problem in Albany is that the big, powerful people control all the shots, and regular folks get left behind. And it really is a distraction, the Democrat-Republican argument, because as you point out, Bob, the Republicans who have represented this region for decades, you know, this area of central New York and the southern tier and the Finger Lakes has been represented by Republican senators for 20, 30 years. And they go in lockstep with Democrats who are not paying attention to the southern tier either. So what I think needs to happen is we need a real voice at the table. We need someone who's going to stand up, have a presence in that conference that's in control, and say, look, I'm standing here for my people who have been left behind and shut out and who deserve exactly the same opportunities as anyone else in the state. The money controls a lot in Albany, and you see a flow of money from Wall Street to Albany and back again. And that cycle of corruption, of the money flow, it doesn't pay attention to political party, and it leaves us out.
It's 8:40 at WNBF on a Tuesday morning. Leslie Danks Burke is a candidate for the state Senate. She is with us from Tompkins County in Ithaca. What is your sense right now of the people in Tompkins and some of the surrounding counties when it comes to politics in general and perhaps state politics specifically? Do you get a sense that people are exasperated, that in some cases they may have lost hope or they've become cynical because of what they've seen over the last few decades?
I think that's right. I think people are tired, and I think people are ready to see, opportunity come our way again. Bob, I'm a Democrat. I'm a proud Democrat, and I believe in the Democratic Party's values of freedom from want and freedom from fear. And we are starting to see real change happen after several years of flowing the money and the energy and the effort directly into big, huge corporate coffers at the federal level. And we've seen it here at the state level, too. Andrew Cuomo resigned in a blaze of scandals. He did not uphold the values of our state and our country, and he certainly didn't uphold the Democratic Party values. And so we're seeing a real opportunity now to start building again. But it's going to take some time because people are tired. We were talking earlier, Bob, about my own children's public school. My kids are in public school in Ithaca, and the roof is caving in their school because the infrastructure investment has not happened over the last couple of decades. The water in my kids' school was turned off. The drinking water was turned off for several years because they found lead in the pipes, and there was no money to fix the lead in the pipes. So they had to bring in water coolers, and all the kids were drinking out of water coolers for years. Couldn't drink the water out of the pipes. Those sorts of problems are problems that are fixable if we can stand up and say, look, we're tired. As voters, we're ready for our government to work for us again.
If people want to learn more about you and about your campaign, what can they do?
They can go to my website, leslieforsenate.com. I'm also very accessible. People can email me through that website. I love to get emails directly from folks, and I tend to respond personally right back. Sometimes it takes me a little while because I do get a lot of messages from a lot of people. But we are building a movement here across the southern tier and Finger Lakes. I got in there early. I got in there 6 weeks ago before we knew. We still don't know what the district lines are. We probably won't know for another 6 or 8 weeks. And I believe that we have an opportunity to raise a voice, and we can't wait around to get in there and get going.
It's going to be a fascinating time, an intriguing time for New Yorkers and for candidates as we look ahead to the 2022 elections. Leslie Danks Burke, appreciate your joining us today. I'm sure we'll speak again.
Appreciate you. Thanks very much, Bob.
Take care.